It's that time of the week. GarageBand Weekly is live and on the air. In this week's episode, we're looking at all things keyboards. We'll be talking about the new macOS Monterey. Is it worth upgrading just yet? And our tip of the week is also about keyboards. Yeah, it's all keyboards all the time, and it's happening right here on GarageBand Weekly. Let's do it.
GarageBand Weekly, GarageBand Weekly, GarageBand Weekly.
Oh, yes, it is time for the only weekly GarageBand related show on the internet. At least I think. I haven't actually done the research. I say that every week, but I haven't actually worked out if it is indeed the only one. But it's the only one that I know of. Welcome. It is show number 99. Yes, we are just 1 week away from celebrating our 100th episode of GarageBand Weekly, which is a bit ridiculous. When I started this sort of idea back in the GarageBand Users Facebook group, Steve Mara and myself, we did a show called GarageBand Users Weekly. And when Steve couldn't do the show anymore, I said, I'm going to take it over to YouTube if that's cool. And he said, of course that's cool. And here we are. 2 years later, 100 episodes. And yes, it's been quite a ride. Let's jump into what is in the news this week. And hasn't been a whole lot in the way of GarageBand or even Apple-related news because there was so much that went on for so long that we've just really... oh, that's better. So I'm trying these new Apple AirPod Max headphones and had the noise cancelling on. And I was hearing my own voice and nothing else, and it sounded a little bit weird there. So what has been new? macOS Monterey 12.0.1. So if you're a GarageBand Mac user... you may realize that you have to be updated to at least Big Sur to use the latest versions of GarageBand. It's even worse than that because pretty much now you need to be in Monterey. So should you update, and what's my experience been so far? So I'm now on 12.0.1. I did update from Big Sur to 12.0, and because basically it came on this MacBook Pro that I'm using, I'll talk about in a moment. So the main changes, the things that were annoying about 12.0, number one is that my webcam settings app didn't work. That was a pain because I use webcam settings all the time. This is this app over here. Oh, by the way, we're brought to you today by my GarageBand Beginner's Guide. Go to studiolivetoday.com/courses. I'm terrible at self-promoting. But yeah, $10 if you're starting out in GarageBand iOS, the GarageBand Beginner's Guide. But if you use a webcam on the Mac, this little app here, the webcam settings tool, is super, super useful. And this wasn't working with 12.0. The good news is 12.0.1 has fixed it. So if, like me, you use your webcam and you use it with Mac and you love the webcam settings tool, just make sure you've upgraded to 12.0.1. The other feature that I was super duper excited about was that, as you may know, I share my iPad screen. So for shows like this... it's failed. It's turned off just as I'm about to talk about it. I use an app called Reflector, which is a little bit clunky, as we've just experienced by the fact that I just plugged it in and was about to show you this when it fell off. So I use Reflector to reflect my iPad screen here so I can do tutorials and the like. Now, in macOS Monterey macOS Monterey version 12, they added a new feature where you can actually share directly from your iPad or your iPhone to your Mac. But here's the problem. As soon as you share, it takes over the whole screen. So for someone like me that wants to run StreamYard or do something else and then share at the same time, that's a big giant sack of you-know-what. And the other problem is if you just wanted to... I thought this would be cool for folks that have two screens. Maybe you could have GarageBand iOS on one screen, GarageBand Mac on the other. But guess what? As soon as you put your GarageBand iOS on one screen, you lose the functionality of the other screen entirely. So... well done, Apple, for integrating a feature that I've had to use another app for so long, but boo Apple for implementing it in such a way that makes it all but useless for all but the simplest use cases. So there you go. So should you update? Like most things, here's my advice when it comes to updating. The same with your iOS updates. Update when you need to, not at the very first mention of it. So I say that to mean that if you're in the middle of a big project on your Mac, for the love of your deity of choice, don't update until you have finished that project. There is nothing in macOS Monterey that is a game changer. There's nothing in the new update to GarageBand Mac that's a game changer enough that means you should update and potentially lose some work.
Could you say that again?
I said, Siri, don't update your don't update your Apple hardware. Because sometimes it thinks you're talking to it when you're really not. So that's macOS Monterey. It's a thing at a place. So how is it going? So you may have seen my video during the week. I do have the MacBook Pro. I've had it for nearly 2 weeks now. As I've mentioned before, it's on loan from Apple. It is going back at the end of this week, but I've been trying to use it in my studio. So I've been using it with Logic Pro, with GarageBand Mac. I've been using it to try and stream my iOS stuff over there and share between. And how's it been going? Well, it's been going great. I mean, there's no surprises there. It's the brand new 2021 MacBook Pro. It flies along. The chip is great. It's got lots of memory. It's got lots of storage. The problems we had with Monterey are now kind of sorted. So yeah, it is absolutely fine. But is it doing enough more for me than my Mac Mini, given that it is somewhere in the vicinity of 5 times the cost of the Mac Mini? Maybe not. So for me, it's going to be an interesting thing because I do have the Mac Mini that is sitting. I haven't put it precariously today. Like last week, I got in trouble because it was hanging. It looked like it was hanging off the edge. It was actually in no peril, but it did look pretty bad. So when I go back to the Mac Mini, is it going to be a complete shock to the system? Not really, because having that additional power, it's just like headroom, right? It's just like at the moment, I'm using the Mac Mini and I'm using probably 70 to 80% of its power. Whereas as soon as I go to the MacBook Pro, I'm using 10, 20% of its power. So if you're a power user, the MacBook Pro is going to be amazing. The other thing that's been good about it has been the portability. Not gonna lie about that. Having my studio set up here is cool, except when I'm not in the studio. So having the MacBook Pro has meant that if I'm working on something in GarageBand or Logic Pro, I can just grab the laptop and go out to the kitchen or it's springtime here, go outside and enjoy some of that fine weather and use my Mac there. So yeah, I'm on the fence at the moment as to whether I stick with having the Mac Mini or is my next upgrade going to be wait for the Mac Mini that has the more powerful guts, or do I pivot and do I actually go and get myself my own MacBook Pro? What Apple have done is made it a difficult decision for me. Before I'm like, no, there's no way I'd need one, but yeah, before. Nice wireless headphones with a wire. The other thing that is on loan from Apple are, you can see the box back there, these are the AirPods Max. They are wireless and you can use them in wireless mode. They do work really well as wireless headphones. So why do I have a wire dangling down here? Well, because I wanted to use these to monitor my audio, which I'm doing. And I guess what? I had to go out and buy this. I had to go out and buy myself the Lightning to 3.5mm audio jack. Now, on the back of there, you'll see it's a $55 cable, and it's not it's thin as, like it's not a chunky cable. I'm a little concerned that this is just going to, one day it's just going to pull out and just snap in half. But I wanted to test these as wired headphones. How are they going? Yeah, good. Are they substantially better than using, say, the Sennheiser HD280 Pros that I use normally for monitoring? A little bit better, but it's kind of the same thing. It's the extended cost of these versus what they get. Yeah, it's not quite there. However, what they are great for is in Logic Pro, because these support the binaural audio and the spatial audio that Apple have in there. I can listen to either through my iPhone or through the Mac, and if I'm on wireless, I can actually get that full spatial audio Dolby Atmos sound. So I've been playing around with that, and stay tuned, because if you're interested in that, I'll be playing around with that during the week. So Logic Pro, the newest version, has the new spatial audio, and we'll be seeing how that all works during the week. Yeah, black is only for premium Apple products. Here's the funny thing. They were white and there was black, and I bought the black. Just because I didn't want another white Apple cable. Like, if I'm going to have to buy one, at least I'm going to buy a black one. The final bit of news that we have here is probably the most exciting of all the news, and I've saved this bit of news for last, and that is that next week we have episode 100 of GarageBand Weekly. Yes, I'm frantically typing here because I'm trying to bring it up here, but there it is. You can jump on over here, episode 100 of GarageBand Weekly. Look, I'm going to share it here to the chat so that folks that are here live can jump there. It's linked in the description as well, so you can jump down there if you're watching on the replay and check it out. So what is going to be special about this? Well, I'm going to have some special guests. It's going to be a panel with two of my favorite GarageBand gurus, and that is, of course, Patrick from the GarageBand Guide and Mr. Dan Baker. So it's going to be me and a couple of Brits. Hang on, Patrick's from Scotland. Does Scotland come under Britain? Me and a couple of folks from up that way. But it's going to be a heck of a lot of fun. We're going to be chatting about our history with GarageBand, what we think of GarageBand today, and what do we think is going to happen for GarageBand in the future. So it's going to be a past, present, and future show, which should be a heck of a lot of fun. So there you go. You're up to speed with all the news and notes, and as you can probably tell, there's not a whole lot going on. However, we have a whole lot going on here on the show today because we are talking keyboards, and we are going to dive into that in a moment. We've got the keyboard-based plugin of the week, we've got keyboard tip of the week, and we've got our feature topic right at the end of the show where we're going to do a deep dive into using the keyboards. And even if you think you know everything about keyboards, trust me, even me doing this, I found some things that I'd forgotten about. Like I already knew them, and I checked my old videos and I'd already showed them, but I forgot that you could do them. So even if you think, yeah, I know this stuff inside and out, I've been using GarageBand for years, Pete, there's nothing you can show me, you might just come across something that you didn't know about. So do hang around and stay tuned for that. But for now, let's have a rant, shall we? So I've been getting a lot of questions lately from folks saying, Pete, do you think, now that you've used a Mac and now that you're using iOS, are you abandoning us? Are you leaving the iOS world for this shiny new promised land of Mac? Or are you going to stick with GarageBand iOS? Excuse me. Well, the short answer is my spirit animal, my comfort zone is still iOS. I would still, whenever I load up my iPhone or I load up my iPad over here, I just feel at home. And this is where I do my best productivity. This is where I get my best work done, where I don't have to think, where it's just an extension of me and I can just create without even a second thought. The Mac definitely has a whole lot more power and a lot more options when it comes to music creation. So I thought for those of you that are sitting there going, do I push all my resources into Mac or do I just stay with iOS? Or if you're on Mac, do I go and explore iOS? Because there's benefits and then there's drawbacks of both. And I thought I'd go through the 5 key pros and cons of Mac versus iOS for GarageBand. Number 1, are you more at home with this or with this? Would you prefer to use a touchscreen or would you prefer to use a mouse and a keyboard? Because that's kind of fundamentally the first question that you have here. So when you're using GarageBand in iOS, you are using a touchscreen. Now, here's where I'll say that if you want to get the best of both worlds, you can actually use a combination of touchscreen and a mouse and keyboard, because I'm using a mouse right here. You can see it. And I'm using the Magic Keyboard, and you can use any Bluetooth keyboard and any Bluetooth mouse with your iPad. So iOS kind of gives you the best of both worlds there, that you can have the touchscreen and the mouse and keyboard. But there are some people that do not want a touchscreen at all. They just want mouse and keyboard, or they've learned all the keyboard shortcuts in Mac. And for you, going to a touchscreen may actually be more challenging. It may be harder. It may be a steeper learning curve. So to me, the interface is the number one thing to consider when you decide which way to go. Excuse me, frog in my throat today. Number 2 is the learning curve. Now, I may be biased. In fact, I know I'm biased because I am a GarageBand iOS educator. But for me, learning GarageBand iOS way back in the day, 5-6 years ago when I was learning GarageBand iOS, I was able to be up and running and creating full-length songs within about 3 days, like legitimately. GarageBand on Mac has had a significantly steeper learning curve. So whenever I load up GarageBand on Mac, I have to think about it. And look, it's biased because I've come from iOS and now I'm on Mac. But I've spoken to people and they've said the same sort of thing, that when you come in here to GarageBand on iOS, it's like, I want to record a microphone. So you go to microphone and you tap on that and you set up, you hit record and you're recording. GarageBand on Mac, you have to learn how to actually add a new track. You have to learn about all the different functions and the controls. And then when it comes to using your plugins and your effects, instead of just dialing in things here or pressing a button here and everything is at your fingertips, you need to know how to actually add and remove and adjust all of your different smart controls and all of your different settings. So to me, the learning curve is definitely steeper with Mac, but there's benefits to that, aren't there? Of course there are. And that's what we'll talk about next up here. So number 3, the advanced options. So what is super frustrating about GarageBand on iOS? Well, it's that you don't have the ability to do much in terms of automation. You've got very basic automation of volume and nothing else. You don't have a master track. You don't have the ability to automate effects. There's a lot of things. You don't have any time stretching or time shifting or pitch or tempo matching. There's a lot of things in here that are challenging. And you have to use workarounds to get around some of those things, such as using external apps and processing your files outside of GarageBand. GarageBand on the Mac, on the other hand, has all of those things. It has those advanced options. You can use automation to automate your effects and your panning and everything else. You can use time stretching. So if you bring in a sample or a loop that doesn't match your original tempo, no problem. GarageBand just grabs it and will actually change it for you. And you have things like master controls and other effects that you can process. So in terms of having those advanced options, yeah, you have more in GarageBand Mac. So the trade-off between the whole learning curve thing means that you actually have more control. So if you are happy with the workarounds and you want a simpler workflow, a simpler life in general, iOS may be for you. If you are craving those additional things, then check out the Mac. Let's talk about portability. So, and you may say, Pete, either are portable, because if you've got a MacBook, you're taking GarageBand on Mac with you everywhere. But are you? Are you really? Are you using it on the bus? Are you using it when you're walking around trying to sample sound? Do you have your laptop out and folding it about? Or is the benefit of having GarageBand on this that you can just point this at a sound and capture it straight into GarageBand, throw it in the sampler, and start creating while you're literally walking around? That, to me, is one of the big benefits of GarageBand iOS, and probably why in the future I'll be using a hybrid approach. I'll be using iOS and Mac to get the best of both worlds. But if you are looking for that portability and you are out and about a lot more, which many of us are again now, thankfully, fingers crossed for the future, then yeah, iOS can actually do that. However, again, having that set up in your studio can actually be a good thing too. So the downside of that is if you're sitting in your studio, you're like, where the heck did I put my iPad? Oh, the kids got it. They're playing Candy Crush on my iPad that I'm supposed to have in my studio. Well, then maybe having a more permanent setup is for you. Maybe if you want to have your audio cave that you escape to and you press a button and everything is there for you, maybe the portability is not something that you actually want. But it's worth considering as well. And number 5, the final point I'll have here is around quality. And I wanted to stress this 110%. The vast majority of people will find zero difference in the quality of music produced in GarageBand iOS compared to GarageBand Mac. Was this always the case? No. Because GarageBand Mac does have some slight differences in terms of the ability to change things like the bit rate and the sample rate. But you know what? These days, the majority of people, I would say 95% of you watching this now, probably record at 44.1 kilohertz, 24-bit sound. And guess what? GarageBand on Mac or GarageBand on iOS both support 44.1 kilohertz, 24-bit sound. So if you plug in your same Focusrite or Steinberg interface or iRig into your GarageBand Mac, or into GarageBand iOS and you record and then you export, you're going to get the same audio. It's going to be the same quality. So there is still this misconception that using GarageBand iOS is somehow a trade-off for quality. It really isn't. The only downside is what we already talked about, that things like your master channel that you don't have and that pesky auto normalization feature that GarageBand has where it raises the volume of your track when you export it, they're the things that you do have to be wary of. So that's where Mac does just give you that tiny little twist of flexibility. But again, I hear it too often, and I wanted to reinforce it here that if you're hearing from people, oh, you don't use GarageBand iOS because the quality is going to be bad. Yeah, maybe when it only supported 16-bit audio, but it's supported 24-bit for nearly 3 years now. So gone are the days where you can use the audio quality as an excuse. It's crap in, crap out. So whatever you put into it, whether you're recording on a Mac, a PC, an iPhone, an Android, or any digital device, it's what you're using to convert that analog audio to digital that is actually going to make the difference. There you go. That was a longer rant than usual, but I wanted to get all of that off my chest because I get asked this an awful lot from people saying, what do I use, this or this? And I thought, let's just throw out the 5 main points that you need to consider, and then you can go away and discuss. Alrighty, hello to the folks who are here today. Bear says I have arthritic hands and do better with a mouse. Yeah, that can be the case. Some people have the touch screen, and that can be a savior. And for some people, it's the other way around. So whatever works for you, and this is what I say about a lot of things, is whatever you want to do, whatever works for you and your workflow is what I would go with. So don't listen to other people and don't do things based on what other people tell you to do, including me. I just ranted for 10 minutes to tell you to do you and do what you want. Exactly as Thomas says, do what you like. You can get great stuff with either or both. That's it. To me, the ability to work everywhere was the freedom I needed. It's not built in to sit still in the chair all the time. I'm not built to sit still in the chair all the time. Absolutely. Righty dokie. Let's move on, shall we? And jump in to look at a plugin or app of the week. Now, I've had this for a long time, and it's kind of a little bit ridiculous that I haven't actually played around with it more, because I was recommended this ages ago, because the miniMoog, the Model D, there is a very cool app. It is $15, so I'll put that right up on Front Street, but there's a very cool app. In fact, there's several cool Moog apps, but I spent all morning experimenting with this one. Someone said, hey, have you ever checked this out? And I said, look, I've had it for a long time. I've never checked it out. So I'm going to check it out here now. And that is this one, the miniMoog Model D. Now, there's the Model 15, there's a bunch of other Moog apps, but this is the one that is the sort of most classic. And look at that. I'm in overwhelm. And as soon as I think this is why I haven't used this before, is because every time I open this, I just get overwhelmed. And let's turn the volume down, because the thing about these Moog samples is that they're going to blow your head off when they work. You know what? I've got to unplug. One moment, please. I forgot that we had that crash before, so I'm going to unplug my audio, and then we're going to re-plug in, and we'll see if this is going to work, because you saw it just went away there. I'm using a lot of things a bit tenuously here at the moment. Let's go. Is it going to work? There we go. We got our Moog. So the Moog Model D is very, very cool. And if you don't know what any of these do, because I'm going to be very honest with you, the reason, as I said before, that I don't come in here and play around with synths is I'm not a synth guy. I'm not a modular guy. I'm not an analog guy. I never used synths, and I never had a clue what they did. And I didn't want to come in here and twiddle all these knobs. I've just twiddled a bunch of knobs. Let's just see what sound I created. Wah, 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 wah. Yeah, so there you go. That's actually not a bad sound. Let's So yeah, you can experiment like that. But the cool thing about this is that these Moog apps are actually packed full of presets. So if you click the little button, tap the little button up the top here. By the way, let's take a step back, because maybe if you've never used anything like this before, where you need to go here to add it into GarageBand is not in your regular keyboard sounds here, but you need to go to the left and tap on Audio Unit Extensions. From there, you need to select the apps, and you can see I've got a bunch of different ones here. Essential Sax, I've got the Hillman synth, I've got a bunch of other things here, and the one we looked at last week, Grand Piano AUV3 number 2. But we'll go back to the Model D, and it'll load up that interface there. And the cool thing is we've got all the presets out the wazoo. So let's take a look. Let's just build something up with this. We'll grab the bass to start with, and we want a bit of a clean bass sound. Let's see what we can find. And as you can see, the problem here is it's almost overwhelming with how many presets and patches that they have here. So let's go with a bubble bass. Yeah, bubble. Wow. That's pretty intense. Should we try a belly bass? That's kind of cool. Yeah, let's use that, shall we, to start with. So we'll hit the record button, and we'll give it a bit of a... Nice. So that's our starting point there. And the cool thing about this is, of course, we can layer up with the different synth sounds, and we can even change them after the fact. Because it's an AUV3 plugin, we can do all of that and more. So what we'll do is we'll duplicate this one out to give ourselves a second one, and then we can jump into the instrument again by clicking there, and it's going to be the same one there. But all we need to do to change it, if we want a pad here instead, is again go to our presets, and we'll go to our pads like this. And obviously every time we change it, it's changing all of these things here. And then you can tweak it to your heart's content if you want to. We've got a hit from Sion. Try the 80s violin preset on the lead in miniMoog. That's what Henny the Business iconic sound. Cool. We will do that. We will jump into that. Good suggestion, Sion. Let's get a pad, and then we'll add that violin lead and see what that can sound like. All right. So we're here in the... Did we go into pads? We did. We went into the pads, and let's find a nice sort of... What about a filter sweep? Let's try this. You do have to be careful, because a lot of these have... Let's do something a little bit like that, shall we? Let's hit the record button here and just make it a bit funky. Yeah, and good point here is a lot of the Moog stuff was free. So this sort of stuff you can actually find. I know, Jade, I'm getting excited about the weirdest things lately. In my old age, I think this is my midlife crisis. Cut to like 3 years' time, and Pete's just got racks of modular synths behind him. He's got rid of all of the digital gear, and it's all analog. No, not going to happen. So we've recorded those 2 tracks in. Now let's take the suggestion here, and we'll duplicate that one out here. Let's take the suggestion of our friend Sion, and let's see if we can fire up a 80s violin sound, which is apparently Henny the Business's sound. So we'll go to lead here. Now, is there a way to search these? That's a good question, actually. I've usually just go in here and just play around and practice, but I'm going to have to try and find the 80s violin sound, because there's a lot of different sounds in here. If you see it and I miss it, you're going to have to let me know. Too many sounds, man. And they don't seem to, are they in any particular order? They don't seem to even be in, they're not in alphabetical order, are they? We've got too many lead sounds. No. All right, let's see. Let's quickly let's look around and see. Do we have the ability to search a patch? I don't believe so. No. If anyone can help me out here and tell me if we can actually search for a patch, that'd be cool. No, I don't think so. We can flick between the patches like this, but I don't think we have a patch search. That's all right. We'll just have to find something. What about a happy lead? Is that going to work for this? Oh, there's a Dawn lead. Dawn sounds fun. We'll bring it up a couple of octaves. Jeebus! Maybe not. What about the fanfare? We'll go back to that happy lead. And this is the thing. I think this is where I've got into trouble before. A mini drone. That's kind of cool. I want to try and build something with this. Let's hit record on this one. All right. There's that drone that goes over the top of it the whole way through. So you kind of just have to turn it off there. So there's a lot of stuff in here to actually experiment with. And I've only scratched the surface here, but it is worth it. It is very much worth it. Because it seems like such a simple thing. You do get those chords stuck on sometimes. Because it's got reverb for days. There you go. It is the 003 70s violin. I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to find it real quick. So I'll let you folks experiment with that, or maybe we'll return, and maybe I'll do more of a deep dive into this in the future. But I was looking for something a bit different for a track that I was working on, and not surprisingly, the one that I've been doing for a while now, the Down Under cover, and I'm like, oh, maybe it needs a Moog. Or a Moog. I don't care how you pronounce it. It's pretty cool. So the miniMoog Model D, thought I'd throw that one in here as the app of the week. And yeah, you can pick it up for $15 right now. They do often have specials and things that you can check it out for. It is very cool. Let us move on, shall we? Oh, by the way, I failed to mention this earlier, but we do have the ability for questions. And if you've got questions, you can throw them in here. The good thing about you having questions is that if I don't have the answer, there's probably someone around here that does. So I'm not going to be able to answer every question you have, but there's going to be someone here that will no doubt be able to point you in the right direction. Or if we don't, we will try and find an answer for you. We'll endeavor to do that. All right. Let's look at our tip of the week for this week, shall we? Thomas says, pretty sure I got that on special for free at one point. Yeah, exactly. A lot of times they do have sales, or they do have them for free occasionally, which is cool. Let's continue on. So, tip of the week. This week, let's just go back to our screen here, and I'm gonna remove that song. Nothing's gonna happen with that. We'll delete you. We'll just load up a new one. All right, we'll load up the keys here. Is that what we want to go with? No, we'll come back out to here. Okay. The merge recordings function in GarageBand can really help you create songs, whether you're using drums or keys or pretty much any instrument. So let's dive in and take a look, shall we? So what we're going to do first is show you how we can use merge recordings with drums. If we go to a drum kit here, if you're trying to learn to play drums here on the touch screen, you'll probably be like me, you'll be like, there's too much going on, yeah. What we can do though is use a very cool function in here, which is the merge recordings function to layer up our sound. Instead of having to do it all at once, we can layer it up. Now to access merge recordings, we tap on our little mixer icon here, we go to track settings and we go to the recording options. And this one here, if you find that this is off, turn that on, merge recordings on, because what this means is that when we play our first run through, we can then play another run through and record it over the top. I'll show you what that means as we go through here. So let's come in here. I'm going to record just the kick drum of this drum beat. We're just going to do 4 bars. So let's hit record. It's going to count us in and we're going to go. Pretty boring, yeah? Not really much going on there. But here's the cool thing. If we didn't have this merge recordings section on, what it would do is if we try to record something else, it's actually going to record straight over the top of that. What we can do with merge recordings though is actually layer up our sound. So let's hit the record button here and let's add our snare. There you go. So now we've got the kick and the snare drum here, and look at that. It's added them both together. The kick drum sounds flaccid. Yeah, there's not a whole lot in this kit. I think we need to change the kit. Let's change the kit up here, because you don't want the SoCal's just no good. Let's go the Bluebird. Everyone loves the Bluebird kit, don't they? There we go. So now, got a little bit of that going on. So let's come in here, because those snare hits were not super cool. Because I'm using my mouse. I'm using my mouse here to hit the snares. So let's come in here and we'll grab that and we can change the velocity of some of these. So some of these snare hits that were a bit wussy, let's just bring it up. This is one of the problems with the mouse here. There you go. You want that sort of velocity, don't you? Yeah, you want it to hit a bit harder. I should have used the touch screen. Never use a mouse to try and actually play instruments here in GarageBand. We'll fix the rest later. The other thing you can do though is of course then add in other bits and pieces. So you can add in your hi-hat here and some crashes as well. So if what we'll do actually, we'll turn off the kick and crash at the same time. So we'll come back in, whoop, wrong spot. We'll come back to our track settings and we want to make sure that we have this turned off, because we don't want another bass drum with the cymbal. And I like that GarageBand calls it a bass drum, not a kick drum. That's a bit cool. So let's hit record again and let's add in our hi-hats. I'll use my finger this time. And then that hit at the end. So I haven't played that particularly well, but you can see the power of this here, that it'll just layer up and then you can add in more and more instruments as you go through. So that's your drums, but you can use this for a lot of other things as well. So let's show you how to use merge recordings for some keys, shall we? So we'll hit the plus button here, and to go with these drums, we want some key sounds. I want an organ on this one. So let's come in here to our keyboards, we'll go to keys, and we'll go down to the classic rock organ, yeah. All right. And what we want to do is we want to play an organ sound here, but if I'm not a very good keyboardist, and I'm not, let's say I want to do that sort of sound up in the top end, but I don't want to have to play the bass at the same time. We can use the same concept. So we can come in here, we can make sure that merge recordings is on under our recording option here, boom. And then if we hit the record button, let's record in the first part. There you go. Sounds like a rejected Doors B-side at this point. And I played that one octave too low. So the first thing we want to do is actually change that. So we'll just jump in here and we'll go to our settings and we will bring it up an octave just to make it sound like we wanted to. Cool. And now if we wanted to add the left hand to this, this is where, especially for keys, it comes in super handy. That with merge recordings on, we just want to add that part in here. Now we can just hit record and we'll get both of these in here. There you go. We've got that nice Hammond B3 organ sound going on there. And you can have both together. Now, of course, you can obviously duplicate this out and you can record it onto 2 separate tracks anyway. But if you start running out of tracks, you may want to use the merge recording function to do this together. Okay, that's the simple way to use merge, right? There's some cooler stuff though, and I'm going to go into the cool stuff now. So if we were to use something a little bit more special, so let's say we wanted to use something that had some knobs. So let's use a synth pad that's got a few knobs in here. Let's go with the Day Spa synth pad here. Yeah, we'll do something like this. So let's just record a little bit of this. We'll just turn the volume up a bit so that we can hear this over our other instruments. Once again, we're going to come into the instrument. We're going to make sure that our merge recordings is on because we're going to play around with this now. And we're going to hit record and we're going to play in a part. And there you go. We've recorded that part in. What am I going to show you here now? Well, I'm going to show you something pretty cool. And that is that recording with the merge option is not just for adding new notes, it's for adding effects as well. So yes, we can actually record in and write in some effects on the fly here using the merge recordings option. So for something like this, we've only got a few knobs here. We've got like this filter LFO here. So if you play a note, we can move that up and down and create a cool kind of effect sound. And here's the thing, if we hit the record button, we can actually dial this in real time. Let's give it a try. There you go. So we can actually use an automated filter here, which is not something you can do with GarageBand Automation, of course, but we can hack around it by using it like this, which is pretty darn cool. So now when we play this back, let's go back to the instrument and check out what's happening to that knob. I'll take my hands away and check out the knob. Look, Ma, no hands. Pretty cool, yeah? So you can record all of your knob movements, and you might think, well, that's fine, but there's only such limited amounts of knobs there. Limited knobs. That was my high school synth band. Limited knobs. Now, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the stage, Limited Knobs. No, it wasn't really. So we're going to try the Epic Cloud Formation, which is one of my favorite Alchemy synth sounds. But of course, you can change your synth sounds by coming in here and choosing whatever you want. But you just want to come in here to Alchemy synths and pads, and then one of your things here. And what we can do now, let's get a bit of a cool sort of pitched. We'll do a little pitched bit in here, and then I'll show you how we can play around with it. So we've got a very simple sort of single note pitch change doing all of that there. We'll turn that one up and that one down here. Once again, all we need to do is make sure that we have the merge recording. It is our magic button. Don't forget your merge recording's on, and then go into your instrument and we can start playing with our knobs. Now, of course, what you could do is you could use the slider here to do things, or you can scroll across and you can use your XY pads here. And you can change anything. You can change your low frequency oscillator, adjust the cutoff, your modulation, and you can do multiple passes of this, which is kind of cool. So let's do this. First of all, what we'll do is I kind of liked just this flanger, moving this flanger out. So if we record and play with our flange, do 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 do. There you go. Our flange is now in there. If we play it back. Pretty cool, yeah. And then let's play around with, what was the other thing? The cutoff was kind of cool to play. Or maybe our delay. Maybe we'll just load up and delay here and change this around a bit. 2, 3, let's do it. There you go. So you can actually just change this up and start experimenting with it. The weird thing, the thing to be cautious of with all of this, and the final thing I'll mention about the merge recording function is, you can't go back and individually control things. So you can get yourself into quite a bit of trouble doing this. The reason being is that now that I've added these 2 changes, everything else, if I go to try and change it back, so say I didn't like that flanger move again, if I try to record over the top and stop it, it's already happening and I have to like hold it back because the automation points are there already, and you end up getting something that's like that, and then it's going to be something like this. So here's my tip on this. Before you play around with this, before you start playing with your knobs, here, if your parents didn't tell you this, before you commence playing with your knobs, make a backup copy first. It just lost it a bit there. So make a backup copy of your actual instrument. So all you do is go in here and duplicate that out. Call this one no knobs and call this one go your hardest. And then you can have your original sound here. And then this is your experimentation with all your knobs. And that is how you can use your merge recording functions here in GarageBand. If you've never played around with it, do go and play around with it. Oh, wait, there's one more thing. I want to show you perhaps the coolest thing of the merge recordings function, and that is we can auto merge. We can merge our wah. We can control the guitar wah. So if we use the retro wah, which is a cool little guitar sound here, we'll just go to the chords, the notes view here. Let's just record in some guitars, shall we? Don't know about that last note. That was a wee bit dodge. Guess what we can do? Yeah, there's no real way. Like you can... It's really hard, unless you've got like multiple hands, to play your guitar and adjust your wah. But you know what we're going to do here. We're going to go to recording. We're going to do merge recordings on. And we're going to be able to wah it up here. So let's hit the record button. I'm not going to play in now because I'm going to use the notes that are already there. And I'm going to change our wah. Ready? There you go. Not the most amazing wah experience ever, but look at this. We can come back in here, and when we play it back, again, with no hands, wah for days. So basically anything that you can add in terms of playing in extra instruments and playing in extra notes and adding in knob movements and adjusting effects and doing everything, you can adjust simply by using that. And even if you wanted to do something like turn on and off the boost here, you can do the same thing. We'll go back to the start and hit record again. So say we wanted the treble boost on there. Turn it off. Back on. So if you were adding another guitar and you were doing, say, a 90s Nirvana-style distortion where you wanted to kick on a distortion pedal halfway through a song, guess what? You can do it all on one track using the merge recordings. I think that's kind of cool. I need to get my real wah pedal out again. I haven't used my actual wah for a very long time. Thank you again. Yeah, I need my foot for the wah too. Wah's not quite the same when you're fingering your wah. Let's continue on. If you do have any questions, this has just gone really weird today. If you have any questions, please just put the word question at the start of your comment. But I'm having fun. Are you having fun? If you're having fun, hit the thumbs up button down below. That would help out. That will tell the YouTube robots that you're enjoying the show. And yeah, once again, if you do have questions, just put the word question in front of your question and I'll try and answer your question. If I missed any of your questions while I was playing with my knobs, then please go ahead and leave those down below. Now, before we dive in to our feature topic, yeah, we're 45 minutes in and we haven't covered the feature topic yet. That's a little bit of a worry. That means we're going to go into overtime here. in this particular one. So let's get ourselves set up for the feature topic. Excuse me. Yes, more wah-wah knob. We need more knobs, flange, all the rest. I know it's rough. It's been a long weekend. I'm a little bit tired today, but in a good way. I think I'm past tired and I'm into delirious, as you can probably tell. So let's get rid of that one. We're starting a whole bunch of things that will never actually make the light of day here. So we'll delete that song and we'll create a new song and get ourselves shit up here. Okay. Now, this is going to be a video. I'm going to create it here, but then it will become a video on the channel because I know a lot of you awesome people that are watching live will be watching this live, but some people may want just the facts, ma'am, and they may want to actually just see this video separately and learn all about keyboards in GarageBand. So let's dive in and record this. It's going to sound a bit weird because I'm going to present it as if it's actually a video that we're creating that's going to be standalone, because it is. Even if you think you know everything about keyboards in GarageBand, there are some pretty cool things that you may not be aware of. So we're going to jump in and take a look at everything you need to know about using keyboards in GarageBand iOS. Let's go. We're going to dive in. So to add a keyboard here in GarageBand, you go to the keyboard section. You create a new song, you hit the keyboard button, and you're in and away. But to change the keyboard, you can tap on this button in the middle here. Now, if you're on an iPhone, you need to tap in the top left. There'll be a little down arrow and you select your instrument. But we're here on an iPad. So we'll go to our main categories. Now, your standard keyboards are going to be in keyboards. And the most classic keyboard are our pianos. So let's grab the classical grand piano and take a little dive around here to start with. So here we go. We got our classical grand. We've got our keys that we can play right here, and we've got a whole bunch of other options in here as well. So let's talk about all the different options that we have and how we use each one of them. So how do we actually add the note labels to start with? Now, this one's actually outside of GarageBand itself. You might think, oh, it should be up here in the settings. It's in a separate GarageBand settings section. So to get to there, we need to flick up here and go to our settings app. And in the settings app, down the left-hand side, if you scroll down, you'll have all of your different apps. We're going to tap GarageBand and we're going to come down and we're going to tap keyboard note labels. Turn that one on. And then when we come back to GarageBand, like magic, boom, we now know each and every key and what it's called, which is kind of cool. So get your keyboard note labels on there. It can just help you with some of the other stuff that we're going to show here. What about wanting to change your octaves? Well, because we're using a touchscreen here, we've only got like 2 or 3 octaves that are going to be displayed. Now, it will depend on how big your keyboard is as to how many octaves are displayed. And on the iPhone, unfortunately, you can't change it. On iPad, you can. We'll show you that in a moment. But to change your octave, you can tap the down button in the top left here to go all the way down, or you can go all the way up if you want some very high notes. And you'll see there that it'll actually change. So this is C5, C6, and C7. And as we go back down towards our middle C, we can see what C's that we're playing there. So that makes it super handy to adjust your octaves there. What about this sustain button here? Well, this is an automatic sustain pedal. So I'll pause here to say you can plug in a MIDI keyboard and you can plug that directly into your iPhone or your iPad. You will need something like the Lightning to USB 3 adapter, or if you're using a more recent iPad Pro, a USB-C to USB adapter to actually plug in your MIDI keyboard. And there's videos that I have here on the channel that can help you out with that. But if you don't have that plugged in, you want some sustain. So ordinarily, we hit the notes and they're kind of staccato. But if we want them to be a bit more legato, we slide on this slider and now we can get some nice sustain sounds there and then leave the app. Turn it off. You can turn it off. So you can hold it there by holding down the sustain button and playing, or you can slide it on to make it stay on. Very cool. There's a mode switch here between glissando and scroll. So glissando means that when you scroll your finger, it'll do that. When you change that to scroll though, you can move around the keyboard by scrolling up and down. Now, other instruments have other changes there that you can do here. So why don't we choose a different instrument here? Let's go into our electric piano so we can show you the other function that we have here. If we go to the electric piano and we come down here, This one doesn't have it either. Let's find one that does, shall we? We'll find a keyboard sound that actually has it. I think some of these older ones. What about this 80s signature keyboard? Does this one have it here? Yes. So this one here sounds like the Doogie Howser keyboard, doesn't it? So this one here, we have the glissando and the scroll, but we also have pitch, which means when we tap here, you can actually control the pitch by just sliding up and down on the keys, which is kind of cool. So that's all of the options that you have in the center part there. Let's move on to our next option, and that is our key controls that we have over here. No, it's not. It's our scale. Let's look at the scale. So if we jump over here, next one here is our scale. Now this one is a little bit of a hidden gem. If you haven't used the scale option before, let's just say that you don't really know your different scales. So you wanted to play a C minor, but you don't know that you don't actually know what notes need to be played in a C minor scale. Well, guess what? We can actually hit the scale button here and we can turn it into a minor by just coming on down here, and we can just say, yep, let's make it a minor scale. And now check this out. You don't need to know anything about that scale. Now, if you want to change the key signature, come up to the top here and you can change it. Now, it's in C major, but if you choose a minor, it'll still give you the minor there. The other cool things you can do if you want to do some wicked solos on some of your things, you can use things like the pentatonic scale, which is this one here. So if you're playing along to like a 12-bar blues and you want to do a very cool. So you don't have to be stuck in that keyboard. And there's even things like Japanese and Mixolydian, all of the funky stuff there. So you have the ability to use a scale there with your keyboard option. Next one along is that key control. So if you're on an iPad, this will be a lot more funky than if you're on an iPhone, because you don't have a lot of these functions, unfortunately, just because of the screen real estate size on the iPhone. But on the iPad, check out this. We can go to our 80s synth style double keyboard look. So you can play, if you wanted to play this and you wanted to have a low down here, you can like do your... Hey, yeah, if you wanted to play that, you could do that. We can turn it back to a single keyboard there. And here it is. We've also got what I like to call the Fat Fingers Forgiver, which means if you, like me, have fat fingers, you can go to the Chungus keys. And now you got all that screen real estate there. If you've got tiny little skinny fingers, then you can go to the skinny fingers. I don't recommend it because you're going to have that. Not cool. So I normally leave it in the middle there or over here. You've also got your velocity control. You can turn that on if you want to be able to manually change your velocity here. You can slide that up, or you can slide it down to get a lower velocity sound. You can turn that one on there. And you also have the key controls function here, which just means that in that middle section, it's going to remove it. So I don't know why you'd ever want to just remove that, but in case you never want to be able to control how your keys are working, you can. Hooray! Let's talk about the arpeggiator. Why? Because the arpeggiator is probably one of the coolest functions in GarageBand keys going around. So let's turn on our arpeggiator. In fact, let's go back to scale mode, and because this can be fun to play around with. We'll go back to that minor scale, and we'll de-chungusify these keys. We'll make them regular again. There we go. Let's turn on the arpeggiator. You just tap on that one, you hit run. And now you can decide what note order you want here. Let's do, say, up and down. What note rate we want. Yeah, we'll leave it as a 16th note. And what octave range. We'll go 2 octaves. And now when we tap, look at that. That's pretty cool. And here's the thing. If we're in a scale, we can tap any 2 notes and we're going to get a pretty cool sounding arpeggio. There you go. Sounds a bit Stranger Things, doesn't it? No copyright infringement. So the arpeggio can be cool. And if you're playing around with this, in fact, let's use this to create something. You can even use like 30-second notes to just create really cool kind of background things in here. So let's do this, and let's make it go just up. So we'll do this, and we'll bring it down a little bit because we're doing that. And we'll say select the... We can create a pretty cool effect here. Let's hit the record button here. hold down the notes. See what you can do here? With no knowledge. This is why I love GarageBand on my iOS. With zero knowledge, you can create some cool stuff like that. Yeah, and then here's what it does. It actually records that in for you. Look at that. It records in all the notes there, so you can change it around and you can adjust it here to your heart's content. So let's just say that we didn't want it that fast. We can halve the speed. Make it a wee bit more sensible, yeah? Yeah. So there's some cool options that you have there in your arpeggio. Play around with it, you'll enjoy it. The last option we have down here is our chords mode. Chords mode, super duper handy. Again, especially if you're not a big music person, or you're learning your theory but you're not quite there yet. You can we can play along here. So let's hit record and record in some chords here. So we can just play along, hit the record button there. We forgot to put the metronome on. And now we've lost our screen. Hold that thought, folks, because we'll return. See, I knew this would happen. It's everything is updated, everything is perfect, and then it does that. But that's okay. I am pushing it to the extreme, man. It's gone extreme. Oh, now I'm gonna have to reposition this to put it in the right spot. It was around about there. Close enough is good enough. Let's test our audio. All right. And we'll restart in 5, 4, 3. So because we didn't have the metronome on there, let's quantize this, which is another function we have here in GarageBand. We'll go into our track settings, into quantization, into straight. And because we're just playing quarter notes, I think, basically, we'll just put it to 8th note just to make sure. Little artifact in there, but that's okay. We'll leave it for now. So that's a cool way that we can actually get some chords in there, again, without knowing anything. The other option we have here is our autoplay. So to show you autoplay, let's duplicate out this one. Let's use some of the learnings that we have already by changing the instrument now that we have that one there. So we'll click or tap on the 80s keyboard there, and let's go into some Alchemy synth this time. So we'll go into the Alchemy synth and we'll get a lead sound. Why don't we go with the airy synth lead for this one, and we'll do some autoplay of our airy synth lead. So you can use the same functions that you use there, but because we know we use C minor and then we went into F minor, we can actually make the airy synth lead do some cool things with our autoplay. So let's turn this on. Let's go to autoplay 1 and see how this works in with our original sound. We'll hit record and then we'll hit our C minor. Get ready to change it to F minor. We didn't change it there. And our quantization was off because we played that first part so poorly. The other thing we can do here, though, with autoplay is change this around. And you get other cool sounds. We can then go and do number 3. And everything, as you go on through these different autoplays, it gets slightly more complex. Pretty cool, yeah. So what I'll do here is we'll delete out. We'll use some autoplay to actually make this good, because Pete's original chords there were terrible. So we'll delete that, and I'll show you how we can use some autoplay together to create a cool sort of bed here. So we'll go to the first one, and we'll turn on the autoplay on this sucker. We'll make this just an autoplay number 1, and we can hit the record button. And this time we can do both the bass and the chop end. And then we'll bring the chop to F minor. But leave the bass on the C, and then go back to the C. That's going to be better. Now what we can do is just throw over the top some autoplay on this one. And you can see how you can quickly, again, without a whole lot of effort, get yourself a nice sound. Now let's just move Yeah, we'll make this more of an 80s kind of sound, and we'll turn it down just a bit because it's a bit loud. So that can go down to there. We'll come back to this one, and let's hit the button on the autoplay and record in the same chords. Nice, yeah. Autoplay, who knew? And you can experiment and change those around, because then, of course, you can come in here, you can edit those, and you can change any of the notes you want if you want it to be a bit more of a customized kind of sound. So very, very cool option there with your autoplay. So that's your basic fundamentals of all of your different keyboard sounds. But I wanted to then show you how we can explore some of the different ways to use the keyboard to play in some sound. So we've already kind of covered a few of these, but just so that you can get a full view of what we can do. As well as your regular keyboards, you have a heap of synth sounds, and your synth sounds will have a lot of additional features. So if we hit the plus button here, we go to keyboard and we tap more sounds. If we go back to our main categories, down the side, you've got your keyboards, Alchemy synth, you've got your classic bass, lead, and synth pads, you've got some FX here, you've got other instruments, and you've even got some percussion, and you've even got custom instruments. So you can actually save your own different keyboard sounds, which is kind of cool. So if we go into one of the synth classics here, let's come in and go to our digital plugs, and we can actually see that we got some additional functions here. So we can just play it just like we would, but over the left here, we've got a pitch bend wheel, and we've got a modulation wheel. So some of your synth sounds will have some different stuff. They'll also have 4 different controls here. This one has cutoff, it has a bit crush effect, it has the filter decay, and it has an amp decay. So we can use this to change our sound to pretty much anything, even really weird ones like that. Now, I mentioned that you can make your own custom sounds, but you can actually tap here, and if we want to save, so say we create a really cool sound, say I really like this sound for some reason, I can actually tap on here, and I can hit the save button, and let's just call this Digital Plux Pete Edition. Akishin, yeah, we can spell. And there you go, it throws it here in the rest of our stuff. So that's pretty cool. We can actually we can save that, and then next time we come back, we go to the custom section, and we can have that. So that's our synth sounds. What about our Alchemy synth? Well, if you want even more control, instead of going to synth, if we go to Alchemy synth, so this track needs a bass sound, right? Let's use an Alchemy synth bass. What about something like the 70s classic synth bass? That's a cool sound, yeah. Now look at all this business. Yeah, you got the same sort of stuff here. You got the same pitch bend and modulation wheels. You got the same 4 knobs here, but you got all this business. So what this does is, as we move this across, see how it's changing everything? It'll change those knobs there, but it's also changing. If we scroll to the right, check out all this business. Yeah, you got a whole bunch more control here. You got a heap of different knobs. You've got your XY pads that you can adjust the sound in here. And you've even got things over here, your attack, decay, sustain, release as well. So you've got a heap of control here. And when you move these, it actually changes all the ones over here as well. So you can see, it's hard to see as you're doing it, but if we come over here, and you change it there, you can see it move. Not very well, but it is changing. So we can decide, we can move this in here, and we want that kind of sound there. So that's cool. Let's use our arpeggiator that we learned before to play in a bass sound with the Alchemy synth. But this time we want it to just do like maybe an 8th note. There you go. So now we can hit the record button. Let's get some bass sound in here, shall we? Kind of hit a bit of a wrong note there, but that's okay. We can fix it in post, right? there's that dodgy note. Let's fix that now, shall we? If we edit in there, this is a cool thing. With the piano sounds, you can come in and edit them as well. So there you go. Done. Solved. Problem solved. All right, so there you go. We can use the Alchemy synth as one of our other instrument sounds in here, and it works an absolute treat. We also can use external instruments. So if you're using the keyboard here, you're not limited to what's here in GarageBand. If we, instead of being in the keyboard section here, we come over to our external instruments section, you can use either inter-app audio, or what I prefer to use is audio unit plugins. Now, the difference between those is subtle but important, and there's videos here on the channel to explain that. But if we grab something from here, let's say go with the Ravenscroft 275, one of my favorite piano instruments. Very nice sounding piano. So let's bring it in here. We'll turn the volume up because it's a little bit quiet now with all of our synth sounds. But then what we could do is, you can see here, instead of it being the keyboard sound, it's just this little one here, and we can actually record in. We can record in some nice lead piano part to go along with everything else we got here. Now, it's so quiet there because I've got all these synth sounds, and I should have gone with something a little bit louder. But we'll turn everything down here just so that you can hear this piano sound coming over the top. Let's duplicate it out just to give it some more volume here. There you go. We'll copy it and we'll paste another copy here just to give it double the volume to bring it back in, like so. So probably should have gone with something more like the Moog Model D or some other sort of external instrument to work there. In fact, we can do things like that. Because if we go back to our external and we add in, let's just say instead of that we wanted to use this Moog Model D, let's grab this one, throw this on here, just use the default patch, I don't even know what it is. But the cool thing about all your keyboard sounds is that even between internal and external sounds, we can move them between, because they're just using MIDI information here, yeah? So you can move them in between everything, which is kind of cool. So we'll delete that one out, we'll delete that one out, and let's just see. We'll turn it down because it's going to be loud now with the Model D. Yeah, we need to play it in a little bit better than that. So that was very loud then, wasn't it? Totally. Cool. So let's continue on. So that's your external instruments. The one final thing here that is very, very cool. So if you've used GarageBand and you've tried to use things like guitar or strings or bass guitar, you'll know that it's kind of fun using the original one. So if you come into your guitar, it's kind of fun either using the chords here or playing some shredding lead. However, it's kind of difficult to get your head around that stuff. So, did you know that you can actually use your keyboard to play those instruments? So instead of using the guitar instrument there, if we hit the plus button here and we go to the keyboard, we can tap the More Sounds button here. We can go to Main Categories, and right down the bottom here, this other section actually has some hidden gems in here. You got things like flutes and clarinets and oboes and bassoons. You got some horns. You got some strings. You got all of your world instruments, and you've got all of your guitars and basses. So if we wanted to grab that same guitar sound here, we'll grab the Roots rock guitar and we can play it here using a keyboard. You can play it here using your chords, and you can even use autoplay. So you can get some pretty cool and funky sounds going on in here with any of your instruments just by going into that other section and choosing all of these very cool instruments. Even something like the Erhu can be yours. Right? Nice stuff there. So there is so much to explore here with the keyboard sound. I hope you found this useful. Dive in, have a play, and create yourself a masterpiece in GarageBand. And that's all I got to say about that. Oh, I love it. I do love the keyboards. Like, there's so much buried in there that if you don't use it very often, you won't explore it. You won't find it. But yeah, there's some cool things in there, and I thought it would be worthwhile doing a deep dive into the keys here today. So hopefully you learned something you didn't know before. If it was just a refresher and you're like, oh yeah, the arpeggiator, that's cool, I'm going to go play with that for my new track, then that's a win too. Someone had a question about in GarageBand why you would just duplicate the track. So the challenge in GarageBand is if you're using MIDI here, once you've got the track volume up to its highest there's really nothing else you can do. In your settings here, you can adjust the velocity, but that's not really going to give you additional gain. You could add a gain plugin. You could come in here and go to plugins and EQ. You could turn the visual EQ on here and just boost the gain there. That's probably the easiest thing to do here in GarageBand, or you can use any other plugin, any external plugin that's actually got a gain control on there. I could throw, what's the one from the really cool one that we were talking about the other day? Oh, look, they've changed. Look at that logo. They've changed the Apple logo for all of these. I've only just noticed that. That's cool. So yeah, we could use something like this. So go into the, not the high pass filter, I meant to do the, oh, hello. Hello. Guess what? Guess what Apple just did? Oh, okay. Pete's got his next video to do now. Oh, no, they didn't. Oh, yes, they did. Apple have snuck in an update that I had not found, and I've not seen anyone talk of this. But check this out. Check this out. Boom! They've actually given you an interface for all of these AUV plugins. They used to just have this really gross rank plugin interface here, but now they've actually updated these to look just like they do on the Mac. Where's the EQ? Where's the EQ? Come on, where are you? Band EQ. Let's see. Okay, so it's not that good, but it's a lot better than it was. You can actually see what all these different things are doing. It's got all the different groups. You can scroll down. It's usable. You can finally actually use these, which means that all of my old ones are obsolete, because I did videos on these trying to interpret what they all actually do, but now it looks like they're all in here. Oh, yeah. What's another cool one that's on? So is it the parametric EQ? Let's see, because this is the one that's actually... Yes! Parametric EQ. How do we add in... So you can add a point... Oh, yep, you can control Q setting. Oh, I got to work on these. You can adjust your Q. You can put it wherever you want it. That's epic. All right, and you can dial it in here. Yep, you can actually put numbers directly in. You can keyboard enter numbers. So if we wanted to, say, do 200 hertz, and we wanted to do a minus 6 dB cut. Oops, it didn't take. All right, there's going to be some playing to do with this. Minus 6. Hey, and we can adjust our Q. Make it a Q of 4. Oh, no, it's still a little bit fiddly, but it's definitely better. Just got to delete the old bits in there. Q of 40. No, that's not right. Anyway, you can also adjust it using your direct options here. Oh, man, that's a bit of a game changer here. They got presets. What's under the presets? Nothing. Nada. You get nothing. Good day, sir. And look, they got the little Apple logo there and everything. Oh, cancel. Don't want to save it. Get away. Go away, preset. What are some of the other ones? Sorry, I'm like a kid with a new toy here, because for the longest time I'm like, why on earth do they not just slap a decent interface over the top of these Apple plugins? Well, now they kind of have. So that one's still, yeah, that's a bit rank, but it's at least it's labeled everything now. You can actually see what they are. What was the other one I wanted to look at? High shelf. There's another one that's actually got some cool stuff that I thought. What does the limiter look like now? Does that actually explain itself? Yeah, no, it's still the same amount. Oh, but it's got a nice limiting amount display here now. So it's still got your attack and your release and your pre-gain, but then it'll actually tell you your limiting amount here in real time by the looks of it. Let's just... Jesus, sorry, I didn't realize it was up so loud. I'll have to play around with that at a later stage. Let's go another one. Is it a game changer or a gain changer? Nice one, Huska. I like it. What about the pitch control plugin? Does this one have... Oh, wow. Yeah, okay. So you got a whole bunch more stuff here. Jeebus. Okay, that's going to take some... See, some of them they've just slapped additional options on, and some of them they've actually gone to a bit more effort here to do. I guess Pete's got his work cut out for him for the next week. I'm going to have to go in and learn how to use all of these all over again. So let's go to the reverb. Does the reverb have any cool stuff on here? Yeah, right. So some of them look better than others, but hey, still not going to complain. Progress. They snuck it in. Who knew? All right. Yes, using a mouse for this is a little bit challenging, Bubba, for sure. Well, there you go. So Apple, I've updated that one. So I'll have to check. If anyone's got any info on that, do let me know, because I'm not sure whether they've updated it just in the latest version in iOS 15, if it came in the latest GarageBand update, like exactly where it's slotted in there. But I guess unless you were going looking for it, you wouldn't know. And Apple do this sometimes. They just sneak little things in there. So what does this mean? Does this mean it's an even better sign for the potential crossover between iOS and GarageBand Mac eventually? I think so. I think that they're lining this up so that the plugins are going to be the same and they're going to be able to talk to each other across Mac and iOS. So why not? Alrighty, that is going to do it here today. So the only thing I've got left to do is let you know that a couple of things, in fact, that you can jump over here and get yourself ready for this one here, GarageBand Weekly number 100. Patrick from the GarageBand Guide and Dan Baker will be on that one. And if you want to learn more about GarageBand iOS, and this just scratched the surface and whet your appetite, if you go to studiolivetoday.com/courses, you're going to be able to jump in and check this one out. Just $10, and it gives you 5 hours of curated content. You learn all about GarageBand, how to connect up your gear, how to record vocals, guitars, instruments, how to mix, how to master, how to release your songs. And looks like I'm going to have to update that, because I think I put in there about the Apple plugins, and we've just learned that they've changed a little bit. So there you go. Pete's got some work to do to make some. That's probably the rest of today. I wasn't going to be doing that today, but now it probably will be. At least an introductory video to let folks know that has indeed changed. Thanks everyone for being here. As we say at the end of every show, well, number one thing we say, or we should say, is hit the thumbs up button. If you had some fun here today, hit the thumbs up button. Do share this. If there's anyone in your world that loves their GarageBand like I do and like I know you do, then do share the video. And as we say, please be kind to yourself this week. Remember, I need a drink. I haven't drank. Remember, if you haven't filled up your weird-shaped water bottle, you can't pour from an empty bottle. So before you go out and help other people this week, including your own children, fill up your water bottle. Make sure you've had a refreshing sip, and then you will be able to spend your time wisely and actually help other people. Because if you're pulling from an empty bottle, you're not helping nobody. And finally, keep creating, whether you're creating in GarageBand, on your iPhone, on your Mac, on your Android tablet. I don't care where you're creating this week. Just go out there and get creating. Do join the Create, Record, Release group as well, because we've got a lot of cool stuff going on over there on the Facebook group. And of course, head to studiolivetoday.com for all your home and mobile recording needs. Thanks everyone for being here. This has been GarageBand Weekly, episode 99.
GarageBand Weekly, GarageBand Weekly, GarageBand Weekly.
See you later.
Answer to your question, John, you'll have a suggestion.